Okay, so welcome back to yet another Bitwig tutorial, and on this one we need to discuss the FN4, which is a synthesizer. Yeah, this is the first synthesizer I'm going to cover because this one is the easiest from from Bitwig. Now it is a FM synthesis. So if you don't know FM synthesis, this is a very good start. Now this is like a super simple and easy FM synthesizer. So if you already know FM synthesis, I'm kind of not gonna teach you anything new because this should be very obvious to you right now. It's very simple. You get the ratios, you get four different, modulators, and four different oscillators in this case. You get a noise, and then you can just, run the modulation matrix and modulate all the other oscillators. And at the end of the day, you get the outputs. It's a very, very simple device. So okay, so if you don't know how FM synthesis works, you're gonna learn a little bit right here, and on top of that, you're gonna learn how to use this synthesizer. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna go grab a new instance, and as soon as you throw it right here, you already get something right here. You get some values. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just go and remove everything. I'm gonna start from the scratch so I can teach you how this works. So I'm gonna go right here. This is the noise section. This is a noise generator. I'm going to click it so I can turn it off. And I'm going to go and I'm going to do full sustain. Now, notice this one right here is on. I'm going to go and turn it off. Now, right here, again, all the modulators are on. I'm going to just turn them off. Same thing here. Now, notice that you have some numbers right here at the bottom, at the top. These ones are the ratios. I'm going to double click it, and I want everything at 1, everything at 0 right here. 1, 0, 1, and then 0. So we're going to get the kind of the purest tone from this. And I'm going to bring an oscilloscope. So, okay, so how FM works, FM synthesis works is that you get synth waves. That's the most traditional way of doing this. So if I go right here and press something, I'm, tapping, I have some pads right now, we get nothing, right? We get nothing. So first of all, we need to enable some sound. So I'm going to go and bring the first one, the number 1. So right here is where you decide the level. And as soon as I do something, play something, you get, guess what? A sine wave. And that's fine, it's just a sine wave. That's how it works. So then you get the other controls. We're going to start, bit by bit. So right here, you get the ratio control. So think of the ratio like a range or kind of a semitone control that is going to go in greater values. So if I press and hold and start changing the ratios, notice it goes up. And now you can go really crazy on this one. Yep. You can go up there. Now, then you have the other control, which is the frequency offset. Right here, I'm, maybe on this key. And if I start offsetting, is the chorus control. Yeah, you're just, is the fine tuning control. Now, you might thinking, okay, so if 1, it's the key I'm playing, 2 is going to be the next octave, then the next octave, then next octave. And yes, but no, the ratios work in a different way. And I can I can prove this. Let me just bring this back. So right now I'm going to go and press, I don't know, a C note. So if I go right here, notice that right here at the top, you get the indication. It says a C3. Okay, so I'm going to go and do the same thing on this one. I'm going to go and say 2. So if I go and check what, this is C4. So we are still on C. If I go one more, I'm going to go right here and we are in G. We are not in C anymore. So what the F is going on? Remember, C is C, E, and G. So we are a 5th on top of that root note. So the ratios work in a different way. And I'm telling you this because maybe you're just playing something and you are going to move the ratios and it's going to sound kind of not out of tune, but it's going to sound maybe a little bit weird or maybe, out of tune. And it's because you need to make sure that the ratio is the correct one. Okay, so let me just go back. All right, now, again, we just press a key and we get some sound. Pretty cool. Gonna go back and just bring the oscilloscope. Now, of course, the whole point of all of this is that we can run 4 at the same time. And with the ratio controls, we can, detune them and just get different sounds. So right now we get the sine wave. What happens if I want to bring the number 2? I'm going to go and bring the number 2, all right? So what is the problem? I'm just getting pretty much nothing, right? Just getting silence. It's because, of course, it's the same sound. Now I'm going to go bring number 3. I'm going to bring the number 3. I'm going to bring the number 4. I'm just going to bring everything, and I'm getting pretty much the same thing, all right? Now, let me just disable the modulation for now. So we get a same sine wave, but we get it louder. And it's because they're all doing the same thing. So right now, the magic is going to happen when you start changing the other sounds. So if I go maybe this one, it's going to go to number 2. I'm going to make this one a little bit higher. And this one, maybe a little bit higher. And then, of course, there you go. You get a pretty cool sound, and you're just not doing anything. You're just changing the ratios. Now, of course, always make sure that the ratio is the one you want. But at the end of the day, all of this is just a little bit of experimentation. So I'm going to go right here, going to go back and show you something else. So, of course, we get our pure kind of a sine wave. So right here we go in ratios. But what you can do, you can go down. So if you go to the second number, to this part, you can go in very small amounts. There you go. Okay, so that's cool. The same thing as the the offset, frequency offset that we get right here. Okay, so what's the point of all of this? Now, the point of all of this is that we can modulate one oscillators with the other oscillators and make different combinations just to get different sounds. That's the main idea of FM synthesis, because this is an FM synthesizer. So I'm going to go everything back to 1. So right now we have one single oscillator, and it is a sine wave. Cool? Okay. So right here we get the matrix. So right here it says that we have the number 1. So what we want to do, I want to use the other oscillators to modulate the number 1. So I'm going to say, okay, so this is my number 1. I'm going to use the number 1 to modulate the number 1. No, I want to use the second one. So I'm going to go right here and I'm going to provide a value. Now notice that nothing happens. Nothing is really happening. And it's because just to do something, you need to enable the mod. You're going to see that something is going on there. You're going in kind of a, sounds like a square, right? Yeah. Let me just do a little bit of zoom right there. So we are just going into square territory right here. And there you go. So of course you can decide how much of the amount you're going to do right here, or you can even do it from here and go really crazy. Now, if you go to higher values, you're going to get that beautiful FM sound. All right. So the same thing goes for the ratio. The ratio is very important, remember. So if I'm getting this right now, because this one is modulating the first one, if I change the ratio for something else, it's going to start modulating it on a different way. And we're starting to get different sounds. Right? So really cool. Now, of course, same thing happens if I go down. What happens if I start going in the, in the in-betweens right here? I go, we start to get that kind of a sound. Now, as soon as you get into a number that is like, maybe half in this case, the sound is going to stabilize a little bit more. When you go in the in-betweens, it's going to start sounding a little bit crazy. Even though if you go up, sounds a little bit, gnarly. But as you get close to, for example, to the half, it's just going to stabilize a little bit more. All right, so that's it. So, okay, so now we know how can we modulate, the first oscillator, but as well, you can output whatever comes from whatever you're doing on the number 2. So let's say I'm gonna go to a ratio of 4, right? And I'm gonna get that sound. But I'm getting it from the number 1. So if I don't want the number 1, I can go to the number 2 and listen what's going on the number 2, what we are doing. Maybe I'm gonna go to 5. But at the same time, I can output this one, but I can output what's happening with the number 1, which is the number 1 with the modulator right here. All right, so really great. Now, what happens if we bring the number 3? Of course we can. We're gonna go right here and bring the number 3. Now, if you want to listen first what you're doing on the number 3, you just can go and say, okay, this is my number 3. I'm gonna go maybe to 7. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go and say that this one is gonna run some modulation. I'm gonna go and do mod right here. But notice that on the 3, we get nothing. Okay. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go to the number 2, right? So this is the number 2. Nothing happens. Cool. So I'm gonna go to the number 1, and the number 1 really changed. So everything that you do right here really matters to the sound that comes out of the operator number 1, right? It's just really important. But maybe you don't want to do a lot, you want to do a little bit and then just blend all the sounds, and then you get it cool. Now, of course, we are all always getting sine waves, right? We are just operating with sine waves. But you can turn them, by doing frequency modulation, you can turn them into something else. So for now, I'm just going to go maybe, all the way down to 1, to 1, to 1, and just go back. Okay, I'm going to go back here, just, go down, go down, go down, and go down. Okay, so we are only getting the sine wave of the first one. Now, what you can do if you wanted, you can just turn the other ones into something else. I'm going to go and enable the modulation from this one. And I'm going to say that the number 2 is going to modulate itself. So if I go to the number 2 and then go right here and start bringing, notice that the waveform, and of course I need to show you the number 2, notice that the waveform starts to change. We are start to flip into a saw. It's not a kind of a super perfect saw, but we get a saw. So now we have a saw on the number 2. And it's because we are using the same sound to modulate the number 2 itself. Now on this one, you're going to go and just get a sine wave, right? So we get a sine wave and we get a saw. All right, so now, of course, we are not just working with sine waves. We get a saw and we get a sine wave. So I can go and just get another saw on the number 3, and we have 3 different oscillators, 1 with a sine wave, 1 and 2 with a saw. I'm going to go right here and just listen what's going on the number 3. We're just going to do pretty much the same thing. I'm going to go, and I'm going to just do a different, maybe do a little bit more. So we can get a different kind of a different sounding saw. And I blend the number 2. And I blend the number 1. And then there you go. So with the same idea, I can go to the number 4 and try to get kind of a square-ish kind of a sound. I'm going to go right here and just bring the number 4. And I can do a little bit of self-oscillation right here. A little bit from the 1. I'm bringing a little bit of this sine wave into the number 4. So we are starting to get kind of a, that square kind of a sound. And we can do, a little bit more. Maybe let's bring the number 2 and start, just getting different sounds. Maybe that's cool. That's too much. And there you go. And you start getting different tones and different blends. Right. So on top of this, what you can do, you can use a noise generator. So by default, of course, the noise is going to be a little bit annoying and it's not going to do anything. So that's it, you get a noise. But of course, you can bring the volume just a little bit. So the cool thing that you can do is that for now, I'm just going to use the first one because it's a sine wave. It's going to be easier to hear. We are using hearing the sine wave and the noise generator. I can cut, a little bit of the, the high frequencies of that noise. We get a resonance, which is really cool. We get a drive as well. And at the same time, we get the mod, just like we do with the other one. So if you think about this is 4 oscillators, and you get an extra one, which is going to be the noise generator. So I'm going to say that I want to use it as a modulator, right? So I don't want to hear this. But what I can do, I can go to the end and say that this one now is going to modulate the sine wave a little bit. Now, of course, we can just change some values just to get something a little bit better. Really cool. Now, at the same time, you can get an oscillator to kind of generate a noise, and it's by modulating itself just to kind of the fullest value. Notice that that's what we get when I do max. I go max to the number 1. It's it's feedbacking itself. What you get is noise. That's what you get. So of course, if you go that much, you're gonna get that noise. But maybe you just go into a little, right? And you're gonna get just a much better sound. Just like we did before when we get when we get the saw. Okay, so that's it pretty much. That's it. You get 4 oscillators, a noise generator. Of course, you get ADSR to control the sound a little bit more. You can output the 4 and the noise control. And remember that the ratios will change how everything sounds. And you can, go to the matrix and, modulate different oscillators with other oscillators. And you can decide by how much. Now, the thing is that now what you need to do is you need to do a lot of experimentations. Because, for example, let's say I want to go to the number 3, but the number 3, it sounds cool, but maybe it's just a dumb sine wave. Well, I'm going to go and bring a little bit of the number 4 just to make it sound a little bit different. And now I get a saw on the number 2, kind of a sine wave on the first one, a modulated saw on the number 3, and something else on the number 4, and you start getting different sounds, right? And all of this is just experimentation. That's why FM synthesis is it's so fun, but it takes time. It takes time because you need to try different things. Now, is this FM synthesizer better than other synthesizers in the market? Of course not. This is something very simple that you get with Bitwig, so you can just get some FM sounds. That's pretty much it. Is it better than the DX7 version that Arturia gives you? Of course not. Is it better than the OP6 from Korg? Of course not. But, it's just something nice that we get just to play around. And we can get really cool sounds. I'm going to go and just, play an arpeggio right here. We can, of course, play with the ADSR controls. Right? Well, let me, of course, do the loop. If I go just to the sine wave, we just get the sine wave. Maybe I just want a little bit more bite on that one. So I'm going to get it from there. Now, let's see how the number 2 sounds. I think it's nice. It's not that bad. We get that saw. But maybe I'm just going to go and alter the ratio just by 1. And if we blend it with the number 2, we get something very cool. Let's see. Okay, what do you have on the number 3? You have this weird thing. All right, so on this one, I'm gonna go higher. I don't want it that loud. I just want it a little bit. And there you go. Maybe a little bit more reverb. Could bring a delay just to make things better. The same thing we bring the number 4. let's start changing this part. Notice I'm doing just one, right? Notice how the sound changes. Remember, as you get close to holy shit. There you go. You know, just very cool sounds. And we started off with sine waves. Now, the thing is, one of the problems that this has, this synthesizer, and I'm saying, you know, FM synthesis, this synthesizer has, is that we don't get a filter, a dedicated filter, you know, just a filter that we can run or do something. So you can do something about this. I'm going to go and bring a filter, and this is the default kind of a dumb filter we get with the DAW. So I'm going to do an ADSR right here. We already get it right here, so we're going to talk about that in a second. But you can just run a filter, listen for the ADSR, and do a little bit of, you know, a little bit of filtering. What else do you want? There you go, you get a filter. Now, of course, it would be nice just to get a dedicated filter for this one, because, you know, each filter has its own sonic characteristics, and this is just a very common filter. Maybe I can bring a volcano that has different filters, and we can do a little bit of driving and everything else, and just get a different sounds, and that's very cool. We can, you know, just start trying with different filters. Okay, so just like we are doing this right here, I'm gonna go and show you something else. I'm gonna go and bring volcano, just for fun, you know, just because we're here. I'm gonna go and bring it to the effects section. I'm gonna go and again to throw just volcano on the effects section. So now what you get right here is that you can map this as a modulation for something that runs right here. So I'm gonna go and say that I want to maybe use the frequency, this one. So I'm going to go and say that this one, the ADSR now is going to be controlling the amp section of the synthesizer, but at the same time, it's just going to move this around. So I'm going to go, and there you go. We're going to go and do a little bit more. All right. Now, of course, the problem is that you don't get kind of a dedicated output for the amp, and a dedicated ADSR for the amp, and a dedicated ADSR for the filter. That's that's the problem right here, which is a very common problem that you get on very old synthesizers. The thing is that sometimes you get an ADSR and you can split it and get a gate just for the output, for the amp section, and use the ADSR for the filter. Well, we don't get something like this right here, but you can use it like this. You can still use the amp for this and use this one as a modulation for the filter. Just a good idea, right? All right. So that's it. So now it's going to be completely up to you in terms of just getting different sounds out of this. Of course, you get the standard controls of the global pitch control, the glide control, the panning, gain, and of course the volume that goes out. I'm gonna be creating some patches, and I'm gonna be uploading a couple of videos, just creating patches with this one, just for fun. All right. So hopefully you like this one. You had fun. You've learned something. Remember to like and subscribe, of course, because if you don't like and you don't subscribe, the channel dies, of course. And all right. So I'll see you on the next one.